Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Today, we will be chatting with Naomi Caietti, who I've actually known for a really long time. She goes back to my days of working at the Project Management Institute, which, for Naomi and I's sake, we won't tell you how long that is, except that it's definitely more than 10 years. So you had invited her today to talk. She's got some exciting things going on. She just wrote a new book that's going to be coming out and everything. So I wanted to take the opportunity today to introduce her to you and give you the opportunity to get to know her a little bit. So with that, Naomi, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, Brianne. It's great to be here with you today to talk with your audience. And I'd like to just kind of share just a little bit about myself. I live and work in Northern California, and my focus has been strategic business management, project management, and women in careers. And I've kind of carved out a niche consulting business for myself as a digital entrepreneur, speaker, and an author. And I have a new book coming out called Transform Your Leadership.
Awesome. And I love that, you're taking this topic on. It's so great. So tell me a little bit about, how did you get to this point? What got you interested in just this field and, this topic and everything?
Well, I have actually been an IT project manager for a large data center here in California. I've spent probably 20 plus years working for the state of California as an IT project manager. And, early on in my career, it wasn't a path I think I chose for myself. I was doing a lot of project type work within my job, in my role within the various organizations that I worked with at the state, but I didn't have per se, a background in training or credentials. So I really kind of saw that this was a path that I needed to pursue, and I started going to attend PMI chapter meetings, and I've met some chapter leaders there, and I got very involved with chapter leadership and actually served on the board for the Sacramento Valley chapter. And then I kind of moved into leadership at, with PMI, working with chapter leaders, and I served on a variety of advisory boards, and I served on the leadership member advisory board also. So I really kind of embraced project management, and I actually went through a leadership program that PMI developed and graduated, and I kind of felt after I graduated I really need to give back to my community. And so today I continue to follow my passion for project program and portfolio management, and I work with a variety of clients like Workfront, projectmanagement.com, and PMI.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about your book. Where did the idea for this book come from?
Well, I have actually been a co-author of many books, and I recently was a co-author of a book for women, and I think I still had the idea that there was a topic I wanted to write about that I felt that there was a gap that needed to be filled. And it was in the leadership area for leaders in organizations that are managing projects. And I wanted to create a book to provide advice and tools and tips on the 10 key leadership competencies that come from the PMI Talent Triangle. This was an area that specifically focuses on all credentials for anyone who pursues and achieves a credential, whether it's project management, program management, portfolio management, and agile. So I reached out to 11 authors and asked them to participate to write a chapter for my book. So I have 11 authors that are participating in this book. And the book really is for leaders. And the imagery on my book is of a man and a woman and together overcoming an obstacle. They're climbing a mountain. And I really kind of felt like it really depicted leaders who are leading, learning, and in action to move along their journey to grow. And it's men and women working together. So I'm really excited to get this book out to everyone. It's going to launch this fall, and it will be available on Amazon.com and also available through my website.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've read a little bit about the description of the book and everything. It sounds like a really good read, so I'm really excited about that. So you talked about these 11 authors. What different topics are they talking about?
Well, the various topics that will be within the book are directly aligned with the PMI Talent Triangle, and those specifically are leadership tenets, their competencies in guiding and motivating, and can be used for, as I mentioned, all certifications. So one of the first topics that will be in the book is brainstorming. We'll also be talking about coaching and mentoring, which is very important for leaders of projects and organizations. We'll be talking about conflict management. Emotional intelligence is like one of the most talked about competencies across the board for the last 5 years, and it's very important for project leaders. Interpersonal skills will be sprinkled throughout the chapters. It's kind of part and parcel, something that you would use with many of these competencies. Listening also is a key tenet. Negotiation, one of those other important tenets that you need to have working with projects, stakeholders, contract management. Problem solving is something that, you use every day on your jobs, specifically important when you're working on projects, and team building. And team building is truly an art to team building, and every project leader needs to be more skilled in this area.
Your book is a lot about, leadership transformation. And so I was wondering, what is your overall leadership strategy, your general leadership competence?
Well, I think, one of the things that about leading projects, if you are a project leader, that's real important, is that you really embrace your style of leadership, that you really focus on your self-awareness, and that's a part of being or in becoming more emotionally intelligent, because the more comfortable you are with yourself and your emotions, the better you're able to adapt and be flexible and to lead others. Because when you are leading, whether it's a small team or a large team, you really have to focus on keeping that project moving forward, keeping your team members engaged, which means you have to work with them to help them manage, their emotions, their challenges. And you also have to work with managing expectations of stakeholders. And so there really is a lot to balance. And I think that's another key thing, is you have to find your own balance, because whether you have one project or whether you have 10 projects on your plate, you have to be very focused and be present and be in the moment when you are working with your team and your projects and your stakeholders, because you will have to find a balance between being able to shift between the different projects. You have different audiences, you have different expectations. You also may be dealing with working with virtual teams and teams that are on the ground right there within your area. And some of your projects may be operational, Some of your projects may be very strategic, and they may go on from 6 months to a year and beyond. And some of your projects could be agile projects, and they are moving very quickly to meet the demands and needs of your customers, to get projects rolled out very, products and services rolled out very quickly to your customers. So I would say, stay focused, stay balanced, and pick the right set of tools for the right projects to meet your customer needs.
I really like what you said about, you kind of have to lead to the style of your team. For me, at least, that took a long time, just as someone in the workforce, to understand that I had to change my personal style based on whatever my teammate or, whatever needed. So I think that for me, at least, that is such a profound thought, something that's so important, in working with others or, being a leader. So, kudos for you for sharing that.
Thank you.
So if someone is, waiting for your book to come out after, we have this podcast, but they want to, kind of get a taste a little bit of, what you've done in the past, what other books would you recommend that you've written or participated in that you would recommend to them?
Well, one of the latest books that I participated in, that I wrote a chapter for, called Light Your Torch, is called Finding Your Voice, the Assertive and Empowered Woman. And it was really, it's really a dynamic book for women who want to take charge of their careers, their lives, and find that balance. And so I would really highly recommend that to any woman or entrepreneur or, any, project manager who needs some encouragement and some guidance and some advice, because there's, it's packed full of tips and advice from women who have been, at all stages of their career. So it talks about work and family, and my particular chapter really focuses on trying to engage coaching and mentoring within, within your life, so that you can keep moving through the various stages of wherever you're at, whether you are a stay-at-home mom, whether you are, working at a large organization and really focusing on climbing that ladder, or whether you're somewhere in the middle as an entrepreneur who are carving out your own small business. Another book that I participated in was called Say Yes to Project Success, and it was a book that I was tapped to participate in as an expert, and it is it's a really great book to have if you're a project leader, because it gives you a whole dynamic of tips. So it can really be used, you could have it by your desk to refer to, and it covers any gamut of where you might be at in a project, and it has a whole host of tips and chapters that tell stories. I mean, you learn by reading stories from others that have been, in a situation like yourself. And there's tips in every chapter, and I have expert tips in a chapter of this book. And another book that I refer to, it's really, this is kind of really when you are project program and portfolio manager. You might be working in a PMO. You might be the PMO as, the main go-to person in your organization, or you may be in an organization where you're managing a handful of projects that come your way. And it's called Strategies for Project Sponsorship. And it really talks about how the sponsor, who the sponsor is, and what is their role, and how do they impact your projects. and it's written by some, fellow authors that I know, and it's a good read. And another book that I participated in way back when, it's just a fun book to read, and it was written by Peter Taylor, The Project Manager Who Smiled. It's a fun book. I wrote a fun chapter in there. If you get a chance to pick it up, it's also available on Amazon.com. And, sometimes you need kind of some levity, when you're a project manager. You're working on some really high-level stuff, and sometimes it's nice just to grab a book that's a fun read. It's written by a bunch of project managers, and they have some fun stories to tell.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for all the recommendations. We'll definitely, for anyone who's listening, right below the podcast link, you can find the link to all of Naomi's books, so you can go ahead and check them out. So we're getting to the end of our time. Before you close, is there anything that you want to mention, anything that you would say, I have to give this advice or anything like that?
Well, this would be advice that I would share that I do talk about in my book, but I think that today's leaders need to learn how to stretch themselves as they move along in their career path. And I think leaders in any organization, you can't just rely on your tacit knowledge of project management. If you want to become a better leader, you must be mindful and open, flexible, empathetic, communicative, and engaged. Project management is both an art and a science, and it's a blend of hardcore skill sets. And a quote that I can leave you with is, if you just focus on managing a process, you'll be missing the big picture aspects of project management today, and that's people. You really need to focus on working with your teams, your stakeholders, your sponsors, and if you develop good strategic relationships, you will do well in your career and go far.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't agree with you more. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to working with you more in the future.
Okay, thanks, Fran, and thanks to your audience. And if anyone would like to get in touch with me, you can check my website at www.naomicaietti.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And I will list all of that below, so you can go directly to Naomi's website right after listening to this podcast. Thanks so much, everyone.